Well, hello there, friends, patrons, fellow travelers of the internets. Welcome to the Death of Stags live stream. And yes, my hair's getting longer, isn't it? I gotta actually tuck it behind my ears a little bit. Hello, welcome. We did a Renly live stream. We all did Renly together last week, and it was great. But we ran out of time, and I basically chopped off the symbolism. So we did the plot-centric analysis of Renly. We had a lot of good discussion. The discussion evolved as we talked. I had some feedback from the chat and from Twitter. We talked about whether or not Renly was a good king. But today we're here to talk symbolism. Renly is also full of symbolism. And when we look at him as a symbolic green man king in the image of Robert, it invites the comparison of the death of Robert and Renly. And doing so leads us down the road of what happened the first time there was green men sacrificed. We're going to get into Cernunnos lore, but it's going to get into some stuff about the others as well. So it's not just going to be noodling around in mythology land and influences. We are going to have some thoughts about the others, which, by the way, my next couple of videos are going to be about the green men others connection. Kind of. My next green men video is going to be about showing, tying the green men to the weirwoods more firmly with the old ones wordplay. And then we're going to do my next scripted video will be called Weir Walkers, which is going to be my definitive why I think the White Walkers come from the Weirwoods video. We are doing a video on Sunday as well. We're doubling it up this weekend. This is a leftover stream from the Renly stream last week. This Sunday, we're going to talk about Cersei. So you don't want to miss that either. Oh, yes. Little old character called Cersei Lannister. As I drink my hot tea from my Ice King Tiki Mug. Thank you, anonymous donor, for the throat coat tea. Thank you. We're trying new things here. Yes. So yeah, this is my Death of Kings shirt. It's also purple and festive for Renly. So I've got golden stag symbolism, and I've got all kinds of symbolism happening. Of course, always have my trusty meteor pendant. In any case, let's talk about A Song of Ice and Fire. Thanks for coming. You can bump your questions to the top with the super chat function inside of YouTube, or you can use paypal.me/mythicalastronomy, which is particularly good for larger donations if you're feeling generous. And you can attach a question either way. When you do the PayPal, there's a comments field. You can attach your question. I check my email several times during the stream, so I get those. It's actually kind of nice. They're queued up for me, so it's a good way to go. And then you can also, again, use the PayPal thing in the YouTube. You guys know how that works. So thanks for coming. And yes, double, in case you're coming in late, we're doing Sunday. We're talking about Cersei, and today we're talking about the death of Renly and Robert. Maybe a little bit of Joffrey, because it's also similar. Even though the little shit Joffrey is not mine, which I always knew that. He is a Baratheon king. He's masquerading as one. So, and even that symbolism has something to say about symbolism. But just to set things up, let's go ahead and open with a cold reading of Renly's death. I will not interrupt to comment. We will go back and look at some of the symbolism here. But I'm just going to go ahead and just do the dramatic reading thing here. So. This is beginning with Kat and Renly talking as they're walking back to Renly's tent right before Renly gets murdered. So let's see here. Is this the right one? There we go. Catelyn sent Hal Mullen to tend their horses while she accompanied Renly back to the royal pavilion at the heart of the encampment. Inside the walls of green silk, his captains and lords bannermen were waiting to hear words of parley. My brother has not changed, their young king told them as Brienne unfastened his cloak and lifted the gold and jade crown from his brow. Castles and courtesies will not appease him. He must have blood. Well, I'm of a mind to grant his wish. Your Grace, I see no need for battle here, Lord Mathis Rowan put in. The castle is strongly garrisoned and well provisioned. Sir Courtney Penrose is a seasoned commander, and the trebuchet has not been built that could breach the walls of Storm's End. Let Lord Stannis have his siege. He will find no joy in it, and while he sits cold and hungry and profitless, we will take King's Landing. What a good idea. It's a good plan. What do you guys think? No, it's not a good plan. And have men say I feared to face Stannis? Only fools will say that, Lord Mathis argued. Renly looked at the others. What say you all? I say that Stannis is a danger to you, Lord Randall Tarley declared. Leave him unbloodied, and he will only grow stronger, while your own power is diminished by battle. The Lannisters will not be beaten in a day. By the time you're done with them, Lord Stannis may be as strong as you, or stronger. Others chorused their agreement. The king looked pleased. We shall fight then. I have failed Robb as I failed Ned, Catelyn thought. My lord, she announced, if you are set on battle, my purpose here is done. May I ask your leave to return to Riverrun? You do not have it. Renly seated himself in a camp chair. She stiffened. I had hoped to help you make a peace, my lord. I will not help you make a war. Renly gave a shrug. I dare say we'll prevail without your 5 and 20, my lady. I do not mean for you to take part in the battle, only to watch it. I was at Whispering Wood, my lord. I've seen enough butchery. I came here as an envoy, and an envoy you shall leave, but wiser than you came. You shall see what befalls rebels with your own eyes, so your son can hear from your own lips. We'll keep you safe, never fear. Then he turns around and sort of, picks who's going to lead, the van and the right and the left. There's other wordplay. It says, a clamor filled the pavilion as other men loudly set forth their claims. The Knights of Summer, Catelyn thought. Renly raised a hand. Enough, my lords. If I had a dozen vans, all of you should have one. But the greatest glory by rights belongs to the greatest knight. Sir Loras shall strike the first blow. So I said I wasn't going to interrupt. I lied. You guys heard there's already been 3 other word plays here. And of course, the Kingsguard we know symbolizes the others, and Robert is surrounded by his Kingsguard. Renly has a similar thing going on in many ways, and I'll explain that when the quote is done. But there's a reason why Renly is surrounded by others. So they're the Knights of Summer now, but they're about to transform, and that's kind of the key. So let's see. And then they go back. Brienne asks for the honor to get him dressed for battle, which Renly grants. And then it says, Renly laughed. Loras, stay and help me pray. I love how Renly and Loras use their code. When I worked at Guitar Center, me and my other stoner buddy, when we went to go have a smoke break after the daytime managers went home, we would call that going to Walgreens, which we did usually go to Walgreens afterwards because you need a little refreshment after your smoke break. But yeah, so anytime we talked about going to Walgreens, emphasis on the greens, everyone knew what that meant. And so when Renly and Loras are like, stay and help me pray, I think everyone in the room knows what that means. Safety meeting. Yes, exactly. We would also call it a safety meeting sometimes, but we would have safety meetings at Walgreens. We actually did combine those. Anyways, so he says, as to the rest of you, I want every man in place by first light, armed, armored, and horsed. We shall give Stannis a dawn he will not soon forget. Morley getting the the super chat tap flowing. Thank you, Morley. Show of love and support. Praise Garth. Oh, yes, we're going to talk about Garth today. Thank you, Morley. Stalwart. Let's see. Oh, whoops. I went the wrong way on the pages. Okay, so we shall give Stannis a dawn he will not soon forget. This is going to be one of those false dawns or stolen dawns, so just keep that in the back of your mind. Dusk was falling when Catelyn left the pavilion. Sir Robar Rice fell in beside her. Oh, wait, is this where they go to the Sept? Yes, it is. I'm going to skip over that part. We don't need to read that whole bit. That actually wasn't the right... That was the prelude quote. I'm sorry, guys. Let me just get this. That's okay. It's good setup. I was trying to talk and think about the word shadow sword. And that's why I got a little tongue-tied. Shadow sword is the key word to find the Renly death scene. Okay, let's see. Where do I want to start here? It's the forest of trees bit. Oh, there it is. Okay. Catelyn rose stiffly. Okay, so she's in the sept praying, and it says, finally there were footsteps behind her and a noise at the door. My lady, Sir Robar said gently, pardon, but our time is at an end. We must be back before dawn breaks. Catelyn rose stiffly. Her knees ached, and she would have given much for a feather bed and a pillow just then. Thank you, sir. I am ready. Oh, and by the way, hey, Kraken Tacos. I saw you in the chat, and it's been a hot minute. So, Kraken Taco sighting. Thanks for coming. Catelyn rose stiffly. Her knees ached. She would have given, okay, for a feather bed and a pillow. Thank you, sir. I'm ready. They rode in silence through sparse woodland, where the trees leaned drunkenly away from the sea. Shout out Ravenous Reader. Under the sea. Wordplay here. The nervous whinny of horses and the clank of steel guided them back to Renly's camp. The long ranks of man and horse were armored in darkness, as if the smith had hammered night itself into steel. There were banners to her right, banners to her left, and rank on rank of banners before her, but in the pre-dawn gloom, neither colors nor sigils could be discerned. A gray army, Catelyn thought, gray men on gray horses beneath gray banners. As they sat their horses waiting, Renly's shadow knights pointed their lances upward, so she rode through a forest of tall, naked trees, bereft of leaves and life. Where Storm's End stood, only a deeper darkness, a wall of black through which no stars could shine, but she could see torches moving across the field where Lord Stannis had made his camp. So guys, I'm actually going to completely change strategy. I'm going to interrupt this quote as I go because I think it'll actually work better. So forget about what I said earlier. Sorry. Forget about Dave of 10 minutes ago. He's an idiot. But what we're going to actually do is explain this. So long ranks of men, they're armored in darkness, as black as if the smith had hammered night itself into steel. Now, of course, Renly gets killed by the shadow baby, right? It's actually Stannis's shadow. It's a shadow entity that Melisandre creates by having sex with Stannis, taking his seed and soul, if you will, taking some of his life fires and creating the shadow baby, which then goes into Renly's camp and kills him. So we should think about this as like a shadow extension of Stannis. Stannis, of course, is a stag man, Azor Ahai figure, but he's an evil one. He's turned Night's King, essentially. And so what he's doing is he is killing the Green Man. Now, as we explained last week and many other times, the whole Green Man thing is the cycle, right? There's the Holly King who reigns during the winter months and the Oak King who reigns during the summer months. All the green kings that have all the fertility and the bounty symbolism, that's Renly and Robert, okay? Those are your summer kings. Stannis is a guy, he's doing a Holly King thing. Anybody who's doing the fiery Azor Ahai stuff is going to be aligned with death and winter in general. So the Starks fall into that category mostly. Most of the Targaryens, as we talked about, and Stannis is also on that side of things. So what we're going to see, essentially, when Stannis kills Renly with his shadow baby, this is the Winter King killing the Summer King. All right. Now the cycle spins back when Renly is, quote, resurrected, which is really, of course, just Garland Tyrell wearing Renly's armor. We're going to get to those quotes. At the Battle of the Blackwater, he then defeats Stannis. So you can see that there's a cycle. They're killing each other, so to speak. But with this first killing, we're killing the Green Man, killing the Summer King. And so the symbolism here is going to be about transforming from somebody's saying there's an echo. There shouldn't be an echo. Let me know if there's any if anyone else is having an echo, but I shouldn't. The speakers aren't on, so I don't see any way that there could be. Just yeah, let me know. Okay, so like I said, you've got this cyclical thing. The symbolism here is of the Summer King, all the summer symbolism transforming into winter symbolism. So this is the seasons turning to winter. So your Summer King is going to die, and all of the Knights of Summer are transforming into something else, something much more sinister and deathly. So we've seen these are the same knights who were just, and thank you, Willisa Patience. These were the same knights who were young and full of lust. We read the quote last week. They're all at the feast in the tourney, and they're talking about just how, oh, echo in the chat. Okay, that's what it was. All right. Yeah, you guys got to be careful. It's okay. I'm always looking out for the sound guy tips from the chat, so thank you. Doing the hot to cold thing. Yeah, let's just stick with the tea until that's done. Okay, so like I said, as these are the Knights of Summer who were previously full of lust and liveliness and health, and now that Renly's about to die, we've seen this transformation happen. And they're turning into shadow knights. They're like dead trees, a gray army. bereft of life and leaves. I mean, that's literally the opposite of the Garth the Green symbolism. Full of green, full of life. Now they're bereft of life, bereft of leaves. And this whole army is about to go over to Stannis. And even it'll say, Stannis won it all with an evil stroke. So this is basically a transformation of the lively army of the green men turning into a shadow army in the service of a Night King or an evil Azor Ahai figure. That is what's going on. And this paragraph really, this is where it's real obvious, but there's lots of other lines that tie into it. Hey there, two ravens. How's it going? Happy 420 in the Aleutian Islands, Alaska. Let Garth be praised. Thank you, Carl Karsnark. You know I love the time zone trivia. Okay, so now we're going to go into Renly's pavilion. There's lots of symbolism, so just open your ears as we go in here. It says, the candles within Renly's pavilion made the shimmering silken walls seem to glow, transforming the great tent into a magical castle alive with emerald light. Two of the rainbow guards stood sentry at the door to the royal pavilion. The green light shone strangely amidst the purple plums, next page, of Sir Parman's surcoat, and gave a sickly hue to the sunflowers that covered every inch of Sir Eamon's enameled yellow plate. Long silken plumes flew from their helms and the rainbow cloak straight from their shoulders. So the sunflowers look sick, guys. This is like, again, very easy to decipher once you understand that this is the death of a summer king. The summer king is always aligned with the sun. So this is a solar king who's dying. Everything is turning dark and cold. And so the guy whose sigil, George, this is how he does symbolism. He puts a guy, Sir Aemon, whose house sigil is sunflowers outside the tent, but his sunflowers look sick. So I just always love that symbolism there. Thank you, Harvard Romberg. I've got no idea what currency that is. My currency knowledge is bad, but thank you very much. I will assume that is sent with lots of joy and love. And that's the currency that we like around here. Oh yes, that was a good segue, Dave. Nice. So where are we here? I lost my page. Okay. So Renly's pavilion is a magical castle alive with emerald light. So alive with light, that's a word we've seen a few times with Dawn and with the wall. So it's just showing you this is a magical place. It's a green tent. Earlier, the other quote I read earlier, it said, Renly's tent was in the heart of the camp. So now you have a green tent in the heart of the camp. So we're supposed to think about heart trees and God's woods and things like that. The Rainbow Guard is sentry at the door. I'm going to get into the Rainbow Guard in a minute. Okay, so within, Catelyn found Brienne armoring the king for battle when the lords Tarly and Rowan spoke of dispositions and tactics. It was pleasantly warm inside, the heat shimmering off the coals in a dozen small iron braziers, and that's a dozen as in last hero math. I must speak with you, your grace, she said, granting him a king's style for once, anything to make him heed her. In a moment, Lady Catelyn, Renly replied. Brienne fit backplate to breastplate over his quilted tunic. The king's armor was a deep green, the green of leaves in a summer wood, so dark it drank the candlelight. Gold highlights gleamed from inlay and fastenings like distant fires in that wood, winking every time he moved. Pray continue, Lord Mathis. So that's very descriptive, just in a poetic, beautiful language. I love that. Gold highlights gleaming like distant fires in that wood, winking every time he moved. But think about the drinking the light language. Drinking the light, that's language we've specifically seen associated with a couple of things. The oily black stone is in a shy and yin and stuff like that. And of course, Valyrian steel sometimes is said to drink the light. It's so smoky dark that it just seems to be like darkness. And of course, George is borrowing a lot of these ideas from Elric and Stormbringer, which is literally a black sword that lights up with black fire. And oh no, I'll start doing an Elric stream if I'm not careful. That's coming very soon, by the way, an Elric stream. There's going to be multiple Elric streams. I'm going to divide them up by topic. There's so much. But Renly's armor, it's green, and normally green celebrates life and nature's vitality, right? But green can also look sick. It can be green as in rotted flesh, like zombies, or like a scummy pond. And here it's a green of darkness. It's a summer wood, but it's drinking up the light. So this to me is language that signifies the changeover from light and summer to darkness and winter, because you're going to see these candles are about to go out in a second. So his armor drinking the candlelight is literally foreshadowing what's about to happen. Then it says, "Your Grace," Mathis Rowan said with a sideways glance at Catelyn, "as I was saying, our battles are well drawn up. Why wait for daybreak? Sound the advance. And have it said that I won by treachery with an unchivalrous attack? Dawn was the chosen hour." Chosen by Stannis, Randall Tarley pointed out. "He'd have us charge into the teeth of the rising sun. We'll be half blind." Half blind? You mean one-eyed? Yeah, very sneaky, right? Also, Odin is a sun god as well. So that one eye and then charging into the teeth of the rising sun, that's pretty cool. "Only until the first shock," Renly said confidently. "Sir Loras will break them, and after that it will be chaos." Brienne tightened green leather straps and buckled golden buckles. "When my brother falls, see that no insult is done to his corpse. He is of my own blood, and I will not have his head paraded about on a spear." "And if he yields?" Lord Tarley asked. "Yields?" Lord Rowan laughed. "When Mace Tyrell laid siege to Storm's End, Stannis ate rats rather than open his gates." "Well, I remember." Renly lifted his chin to allow Brienne to fasten his gorget in place. Near the end, Sir Gawain Wyld and 3 of his knights tried to steal out a postern gate to surrender. Stannis caught them and ordered them flung from the walls with catapults. I could still see Sir Gawain's face as they strapped him down. He had been our master at arms. Lord Rowan appeared puzzled. "No men were hurled from the walls. I would surely remember that." Maester Crescent told Stannis that we might be forced to eat our dead, and there was no gain in flinging away good meat. Renly pushed back his hair. Brienne bounded with a velvet tie and pulled a padded cap down over his ears to cushion the weight of his helm. "Thanks to the Onion Knight, we were never reduced to dining on corpses, but it was a close thing. Too close for Sir Gawain, who died in his cell." "Your Grace." By the way, Sir Gawain, okay, remember how Renly was called the Green Knight when he was introduced in the Sansa chapter when they're walking down the King's Road? It's called the Green Knight. Well, Sir Gawain is the Green Knight, or he's the one that faces the Green Knight. Do I have? Oh God, now I gotta look it up. The story is called Gawain and the Green Knight, and it's an Arthurian deal, and we're going to talk about it in just a second. It's Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. So yeah, Gawain is not the Green Knight. He's the one who like riddles and contests with the Green Knight. So just another hat tip from Martin, just telling you, like, go look this up, which again we're going to do in just a second. So all right, so Gawain died, and the Green Knight kills Gawain, right? I believe that's how that works. So "Oh, Your Grace," Catelyn had waited patiently, but time was growing short. "You promised me a word." Renly nodded. "See to your battles, my lords. Oh, and if Barristan Selmy is at my brother's side, I want him spared." "There's been no word of Sir Barristan since Joffrey cast him out," Lord Rowan objected. "I know that old man. He needs a king to guard, or who is he? Yet he never came to me, and Lady Catelyn says he's not with Robb Stark at Riverrun. Where else but with Stannis?" "As you say, Your Grace, no harm will come to him." The lords bowed deeply and departed. "Say your say, Lady Stark," Renly said. Brienne swept his cloak over his broad shoulders. It was cloth of gold, heavy, with the crowned stag of Baratheon picked out in flakes of jet. "The Lannisters tried to kill my son Bran." Make sure I didn't miss a super chat. Okay, no, I got him. All right. "The Lannisters tried to kill my son Bran. 1,000 times I have asked myself why. Your brother gave me the answer. There was a hunt the day he fell. Robert and Ned and most of the other men rode out after the boar, but Jaime Lannister remained in Winterfell, as did the Queen." Renly was not slow to take the implication. "So you believe the boy caught them at their incest? I beg you, my lord, grant me leave to go to your brother Stannis and tell him what I suspect." "To what end?" "Robb will set aside his crown if you and your brother will do the same," she said, hoping it was true. She would make it true if she must. Robb would listen to her, even if his lords would not. "Let the 3 of you call for a great council, such as the realm has not seen for 100 years. We will send to Winterfell so Bran may tell his tale, and all men may know the Lannisters for the true usurpers. Let the assembled lords of the 7 kingdoms choose who shall rule them." Renly laughed. "Tell me, my lady, do direwolves vote on who should lead the pack?" Brienne brought the king's gauntlets and great helm, crowned with golden antlers that would add 1.5 feet to his height, and make him a giant like Garth the Green Man. He was really an old one from Lang. Watch my videos. The time for talk is done. Now we see who is stronger. Renly pulled a lobstered green and gold gauntlet over his left hand, while Brienne knelt to buckle on his belt, heavy with the weight of long sword and dagger. I beg you, in the name of the mother, Catelyn began, when a sudden gust of wind flung open the door of the tent. She thought she glimpsed movement, but when she turned her head, it was only the king's shadow shifting against the silken walls. She heard Renly begin a jest, his shadow moving, lifting its sword, black on green, candles guttering. Oh, wait a second. I've got this picture. I've got to use it. Perfect. And this is by Lauren K. Cannon. I'll go back just a line, don't worry. It was only the king's shadow shifting against the silken walls. She heard Renly begin a jest, his shadow moving, lifting its sword, black on green, the candles guttering, shivering. Something was queer, wrong, and then she saw Renly's sword still in its scabbard, sheathed still, but the shadow sword. Cold, said Renly in a small, puzzled voice. A heartbeat before the steel of his gorget had parted like cheesecloth beneath the shadow of a blade that was not there. He had time to make a small, thick gasp before the blood came gushing out of his throat. No! Cried Brienne the Blue when she saw that evil flow, sounding as scared as any little girl. The king stumbled into her arms, a sheet of blood creeping down the front of his armor, a dark red tide that drowned his green and gold. More candles guttered out. Renly tried to speak, but he was choking on his own blood. His legs collapsed. Only Brienne's strength held him up. She threw back her head and screamed, wordless in her anguish. The shadow. Something dark and evil had happened here, she knew. Something that she could not begin to understand. Renly never cast that shadow. Death came in that door and blew the life out of him as swift as the wind snuffed out his candles. All right, so that is, yes, it is a great piece of artwork. And Lauren K. Cannon also did that super cool, really close-up, bloody, weirwood face that I like to transpose people's faces in and out of. So definitely she's great. And by the way, I've been thinking about doing a live stream, an artist appreciation live stream, where I just go through all the art that I use, artist by artist. So I'd, for example, pull up all of the Lauren Cannon stuff that I've used and sort of just flip through them. When we do our little art critique, I can swirl some wine in a glass and can get some cheese and crackers maybe or something like that. And, just do an art appreciation stream. I think it would actually be really fun. I've got so much art on my computer at this point that I'd probably at least go for 2 hours doing that. So yeah, looks like, yeah, I would love that. Seems like a good idea, right? It'll be a fun one. I get a lot of comments just on the art alone, obviously. It's a big part of what we do. And that's why I'm always, very careful to make sure I got the right name and the right name of the artist spelled correctly under every picture when you see it, so that if you ever see a picture that you like in any of my videos, all you have to do is hit pause and literally just look up the name. It's right there, and it will take you right to whatever artwork that you like. So I figure that's the best way to always make sure that people know what art is being used. Some people put the links in the description, but that's, to me, is a lot harder because then you have to sort of cross-coordinate. And, well, anyways, you get the idea. So, a lot going on in that scene there. The first thing, I will just follow up on what we were already talking about. You can see all of the transition into cold and darkness. Renly feels cold. There's a wind that comes in. The candles gutter out. And, so if you think about this green tent as, a magical castle alive with light in the heart of the camp. And remember, the camp is a camp of trees. Not only are all the soldiers of the Reach symbolically like green men and tree warriors just because all of the Reach symbolism, they're literally spelled out as the Knights of Summer who have become a forest of trees. So this green castle at the heart of the forest, think about this as the heart of the weirwood net. And so we have this green man king who you can think about as standing in for Garth the Green or just the green men in general. And he's being killed by Azor Ahai. And Azor Ahai is penetrating into the forest. Think of Waymar in the Game of Thrones prologue, he is the warrior without no fear, no respect, charging into the woods headlong, ignores all the advice and the signs. And what happens? He forces out the others who come out to defend the wood. So what's happening in this chapter? Azor Ahai's shadow goes through the forest, kills the green man, and all of these Knights of Summer are turning into shadow knights who are like dead trees, which, spoiler alert, that is the others. And we're going to see that language very clearly in a second. So I'm going to skip ahead. There's a little fight between Robar and Aemon and Brienne. The tent catches on fire, which symbolizes the burning of the weirwood net. Sort of, remember when the lightning, sets the tree on fire with the Grey King. That's the changing, and that's Azor Ahai penetrating the weirwood net. Anytime Azor Ahai invades the forest, invades the woods, you're going to see the woods get burned, and they're going to get corrupted. They're going to turn to dead woods. Eventually, they'll be cold and dead. So all that stuff. Oh yeah, too. Bloodstone colors for sure. Blood on green. Yeah, on the armor. It totally is. Especially when you think about the green armor drinking the light. That's the same language as all the black oily stone. So when you have the red tide of blood drowning out the green, that actually is perfect. Because the whole point of bloodstone symbolic association is that it's believed the drops of blood on the bloodstone. And let me get my bloodstone. Got a bunch of it right here. Oh, there's a good one. Yeah. So see if I can get the camera to focus on the bloodstone. It's a little kind of dark. Shoot. Maybe this one, you can see it a little better. Oh, I need the triangular one. Oh, where is that one? We've got so many rocks, guys. So many rocks. Let's see. Try that one. No, it's just not catching the light right. Sorry, guys. There is, yes, it's also called heliotrope, which is a type of purple flower. There's all kinds of cool bloodstone symbolism, which I went way too deep on in Bloodstone Compendium 2 or 3. I forget which one it is. Oh, it's 3 Waves of Night and Moonblood. Or no, it was Bloodstone 2. It was 2. In any case, good call. It is Bloodstone coloring there. And that is important. I mean, George is pretty consistent about using that Bloodstone thing. Remember, he's got the Bloodstone Island in the Stepstones where the Hammer of the Waters fell, and a bunch of Azor Ahai people like Daemon Targaryen and Orain Waters, who looks like Rhaegar with green eyes. They hang out at Bloodstone Island and stuff like that. So sorry about the rocks thing. Yeah, the Bloodstone is the hardest one to pick up on the camera. It's just so dark. It is a very dark green. It is like that dark green forest color that George was describing there. So good idea, Elisa. I will do that. I'm glad you could make it to the stream, Elisa. So going back to the symbolism here. Yeah, so the tent catches on fire. Outside there was shouting. Still catching on fire. Loud voices coming from the other side of the pavilion. Others stood in small groups and spoke in low voices. There's just a ton of other wordplay here because the Knights of Summer are turning into others. At least some of them are. And actually, let me stop and make this point. Of course, Renly's army does not totally go over to Stannis. The ones that go over to Stannis are like the others. However, some of them retreat back to Highgarden, back to the Green Home, and they come in with resurrected Renly to save the day at the Blackwater. And so those are like the green men who become like the Night's Watch or fight against the others. So what we're seeing here is when Cernunnos dies, when Renly Cernunnos dies, his army of green tree men are split. Some of them are transformed into dead trees like others, and some of them regroup back down to the home of the Green Men and come back to win the day at the Battle of the Blackwater. So very cool thing to figure out there. But here's a great quote about the ones that go over to Stannis turning into others. Like I said, no one made any move to stop them. Men rushed past them, shouting of fire and murder and sorcery. Others stood in small... By the way, fire and murder and sorcery. That is Azor Ahai killing Nissa Nissa. And I guess I have to make this point. Nissa Nissa is a child of the forest. So when I'm talking about green men dying, Azor Ahai invading the Weirwood Net, I'm pretty certain that in technical terms, what we're talking about here is Nissa Nissa being killed along with green men. I'm picturing Azor Ahai with a massive blood sacrifice, just like Euron Red Hand kills 13 kings amidst the weirwood ribs of Naga's, the weirwood Naga's ribs, Naga's bones or whatever. That is the symbolism that we're looking for here. So we're going to see Nissa Nissa dying as well as Green Man dying stuff, always overlaid with Azor Ahai invading the Weirwood Net. So fire and murder and sorcery. Again, it was Stannis, an evil Azor Ahai figure, who sent his shadow into the wood. So think about this, actually. This is like astral projection, essentially. For Azor Ahai to go in the Weirwood Net, he has to send his spirit, right, into the Weirwood Net, really. It's like, so what Stannis is actually doing in this moment is he's sleeping and dreaming, and he's seeing these events in the dream. He refers to that later, seeing Renly's death in a dream. So he's basically, Azor Ahai is dreaming. He sends his spirit into the Weirwood Net, into this forest, into the Green Castle. They cause death. They kill the Green Men. And then the trees turn into others, essentially. So it's a really nice sequence. And it's one we're going to be talking about in some of the next couple of videos, like I said. So it's very nice synergy here. So others stood in small groups and spoke in low voices. A few were praying, and one young squire was on his knees sobbing openly. Renly's battles were already coming apart as the rumors spread from mouth to mouth. The night fires had burned low, and as the east began to lighten, the immense mass of Storm's End emerged like a dream of stone, while wisps of pale mist raced across the field, flying from the sun on wings of wind. Morning ghosts, she had heard old Nan call them once, spirits returning to their graves, and Renly was one of them now, gone like his brother Robert, like her own dear Ned. So we've got pale ghosts flying around the field among the dead trees, and Renly, the dead green man, is one of those ghosts. So that's pretty cool stuff, right? That's definitely others' language. Are there any symbolic connections from Renly and the Crannog men? Well, I mean, only tangentially, in the sense that the Crannog men are symbolizing, like children of the forest or green seers and things like that. But I'm not sure what you mean as far as connection between Renly and the Crannog men. It's more that they tie into the similar symbolism. Although, of course, Renly, his throat is cut, right? He's cut through the neck. So this is Weirwood symbolism, as I've talked about with the Weirwood stigmata. People often gain the Weirwood symbolism when they're doing Weirwood deaths. And so, when your throat is cut, George likes to call that a red smile in A Song of Ice and Fire. And the Weirwoods, they have a carved bloody smile. So it's literally a red smile that's cut with a knife, just like you cut someone's throat. So the cut throat is a major Weirwood symbol. And it's also usually the way that you sacrifice a sacrificial animal, like a stag or sheep or ram. And so Renly has a highly sacrificial death via that throat cutting. But it's also showing him kind of that he's an avatar of the Weirwood trees, that he's going into the Weirwood trees. And of course, the Crannog men are from the neck. And they, the neck strangles Westeros. So there's like green men neck symbolism, maybe. I don't know. You asked for a link. That's what I got. This Weirwood stigmata. I need to do a Weirwood stigmata video. That's on the list for sure. And okay, and I am going to check the PayPals in a second, but I want to finish up what I was talking about right here. So they're figuring out that it was Stannis' shadow. And then there's one more line I'm looking for. As the long fingers of dawn fanned across the field, color was returning to the world. Where gray men had sat gray horses armed with shadow spears, the points of 10,000 lances now glinted silvery cold. And on the myriad flapping banners, Catelyn saw the blush of red and pink and orange, the richness of blues and browns, the blaze of gold and yellow, all the power of Storm's End and Highgarden, the power that had been Renly's an hour ago. They belong to Stannis now, she realized, even if they do not know it themselves yet. Where else are they to turn if not to the last Baratheon? Stannis has won all with an evil stroke. So you can really see, again, the symbolism being hammered home. Shadow Knights, dead trees, they're going over to the Night's King, and we've got long fingers of dawn, and then their lances are now silvery cold. So their lances are the things that looked like the trees a minute ago. So now those trees are silver and cold. They're frozen, essentially. And all that rainbow language, all the colors, yeah, it's like the Northern Lights or just like the rainbow symbolism. Rainbow symbolism is always icy in A Song of Ice and Fire. Yes, rainbows, you know, there's obviously like a gay pride joke here with Renly having the rainbow guard, but the symbolism of rainbows is about ice. And so that brings us to Renly's others. What those dawn fingers do. Well, the fingers of dawn, they fan out. And that's a reference to like the goddess Aurora, the dawn goddess. She's associated with those rosy fingers of dawn. But like I said, you should think about this one as like a false dawn, the year of the false spring, the idea of stealing dawn. You know, the sun doesn't rise right. It's like a wrong sunrise. That's the kind of dawn that we've got here. So yeah, 7 colors in the rainbow, 7 knights in the Kingsguard. So as we know, the Kingsguard symbolizes the others. And I found a new Kingsguard others quote associated with Robert just today that I will read real quick. This is Gregor Clegane when he's just been fighting with the Mountain during the tourney in a Game of Thrones, and Robert yells, and it says, he dropped his sword and glared at Robert, surrounded by his Kingsguard and a dozen other knights and guardsmen. So Robert's got other knights and his otherish Kingsguard, just to sort of double up the symbolism there. And then Renly is similarly surrounded by the Rainbow Guard. Now, before we talk about the Rainbow Guard, I told you the basic idea. The basic idea is that Martin loves to use the rainbow prismatic color description with ice. He uses it with the wall all the time. And it's basically a sneaky way of putting ice symbolism in places without making everything just white, white, white all the time. So think about the rainbow as a prism, just like a piece of ice is, you know, reflects all the light and stuff. And also think about the Bifrost Bridge, which is rainbow colored. The wall, the ice wall of Westeros is very strongly an analog for the, I think it's Bifrost. Sorry, I would say Bifrost. The Bifrost Bridge, whatever it is. It's a rainbow bridge. So, I know they're not happy others. They're not. They're all unhappy. They are the Knights of Summer, but winter. Remember how Catelyn was saying winter will come for the Knights of Summer? Well, that's literally what's happened here. Winter has come. And there's even actually a setup line when they do the parlay. They do the parlay at a place that is got dead trees as well. Let's see, where is that one? So much to talk about. The meeting place was a grassy sward dotted with pale gray mushrooms and the raw stumps of felled trees. And then it says, Catelyn could not see the sea from here, but she could feel how close it was. So there's a good green seer, green sea wordplay, hat tip ravenous reader. The smell of salt was heavy on the wind, gusting from the east. Stannis Baratheon's foragers had cut the trees down for his siege towers and catapults. Catelyn wondered how long the grove had stood, whether Ned had rested here when he led his host south. So an old grove. They're not weirwoods, but it's a grove of trees with pale gray mushrooms. We're supposed to think of weirwoods. And who cut them down? You know, the evil Azor Ahai figure. He's the same one that's about to cut Renly down, and he's about to turn all those summer nights into dead trees, right? So the parlay here is actually foreshadowing the entire action by showing us tree stumps that Stannis has already cut down. So it's a small thing, but it's cool. Now, Rainbow Guard, like I said, rainbow symbolism associated with ice. But the cool thing is that Martin ties it all together with the warrior's sons. Okay, so the warrior's sons are also symbols of the others, just like the King's Guard. And it's a similar idea. A knight, knights that are, they've sworn to chastity. That's what it's looking for. Sorry. And the warrior sons come from Visenya's Hill in a sept of Baelor, who's an ice dragon figure. The whole sept is made out of white marble, so it's icy symbolism. Visenya is a Night's Queen figure who rides a symbolic ice dragon. If you want to find out the whole story on that, that's called Moons of Ice and Fire 3, Visenya Draconis. One of my more underrated podcasts, by the way. So the warrior sons, think about them as symbolic others, and listen to these quotes, all right? The warrior sons wore rainbow cloaks and inlaid silver armor over hair shirts and bore star-shaped crystals in the pommels of their long swords. They were the swords, holy men, ascetics, fanatics, sorcerers, dragon slayers, demon hunters. There were many tales about them, but all agree they were implacable in their hatred for all enemies of the holy faith. And everything about the faith of the Seven is dedicated towards other symbolism. All of their temples are white. They've got crystal, rainbow stuff going on. You've got the dead weirwood staff, all kinds of stuff like that. The Sept of the Snows, this in White Harbor is a great one. They've got a milk glass dome at another one. So actually, that's the Temple of the Moonsingers, but it's the same idea. And so here we've got their swords have crystals in the pommels. And remember, the other swords literally look like they're made of crystal. They've got the rainbow cloaks, just like Renly's Rainbow Guard. I mean, it's the same thing. And then that inlaid silver of their armor. Well, check out this quote. In the Hall of Lamps, a dozen warrior sons awaited her coming, and that's Cersei. This is about the beginning of her walk of shame. Rainbow cloaks hung down their backs, and the crystals that crested their great helms glittered in the lamplight. Their armor was silver plate polished to a mirror sheen, but underneath she knew every man of them wore a hair shirt. Their kite shields all bore the same device, a crystal sword shining in the darkness, the ancient badge of those the small folk called the swords. So even more clear, not only do their swords, and thank you, Carl Karsnark, for linking to Visenya Draconis with all speed. Nice. Literally their sigil, the device on their shield, is a crystal sword. Else, it's called a rainbow sword in a different place. Here it's called a crystal sword. So again, crystal, rainbow, ice crystal is all the same idea symbolically. So a crystal sword in the darkness, that's literally a picture of an other's sword. They only come out at night. So you only ever see the crystal sword of another in the darkness. Pretty great stuff. I guess I should stop this screen. That's not the one I'm talking about. So that's really cool. Their armor is polished to a mirror sheen. And remember, the ice armor of the others is effectively a mirror. It reflects the snow and the trees and the black of the sky. It's all reflected on the ice armor of the others. A super chat from Tyler. Okay. Oh, you repeated the question. Thank you, Carl. So thank you, Tyler. If Renly beats Stannis, would he have successfully sacked King's Landing? Yes, definitely. He had the numbers for sure. He definitely did, or at least to force a submission and an alliance. But yeah, he would have had the numbers to do it in all likelihood. Thank you, Carl. And I am going to do those PayPals in just a second. And so, okay, so you've got your warrior sons. Like I said, the mirror armor, like the others, crystal swords, like the other swords, and coming from an ice temple named after an ice dragon on a hill named after an ice queen. So you get the idea. These are symbolic others. And they have rainbow cloaks, just like Renly's Rainbow Guard, who is Renly's version of the King's Guard, who are symbolic others. So you can see there's a nice three-way synergy between the others and the Kingsguard and the Warrior's Sons. That's that's 4. Okay, so it's Kingsguard, Warrior's Sons, and Renly's Rainbow Guard. And in the middle is the others, because they're all symbolizing the others. There we go. So it's a triangle with an eye in it, which is like a pyramid. And now we're talking about Illuminati stuff. So let's keep moving. I need a drink. So there are two such lines. The question is from Apocalypse Agon. Hey, Apocalypse Agon, maybe. It could work either way, actually. Did you ever make a remake where individuals like Stannis get eclipsed over having a relative overshadow them in reference to the actual celestial occurrence? So there's 2 people that get eclipsed. It's Jon and Stannis. And I think that's because they are both essentially part of that Azor High sun moon eclipse occurrence. Yeah, I don't really have anything deep to say about that, other than, eclipse is a part of the sequence. As far as the moon wandering too close to the sun, that is an eclipse. So these lines are here to help us put that together if we haven't already, essentially. Total eclipse of the heart, yes. And there's only 2 of those, so Illuminati confirmed. So that's the Warrior's Sons. So you got your Rainbow Guard, Warrior's Sons. So you can see how this all fits together. Renly has summer nights, like he's a green man, right? He's a green man king with summer nights, and they're all bountiful and rich, and they're lusty, and they have lots of food and all that stuff. But the foreshadowing is there the whole time of them turning into others, which is just what happens here when Stannis comes in with his evil stroke, sends his spirit into the weirwood net, blah, blah, blah. I'm repeating myself. You guys get the idea. So this is a big clue that the others are created from the weirwoods and from green men. And I'm going to prove this conclusively in my new video, Weirwalkers. What's also the 3rd Twilight book? Total Eclipse of the Heart. They didn't name Twilight that. That couldn't be. I'm so late on this joke. Sorry. Explain yourself, Elisa. In any case, Elisa, you're getting in trouble today in the chat. You're not in trouble. I'm just kidding. Okay, so let's see. Is there anything else left to say about this one? Oh, Eclipse. Okay. That was a pretty forced Twilight reference. So like even when Catelyn is walking up right before the Knights of Summer quote, it says, below him sat Lady Oakheart, tiny and delicate, and to her left, Lord Randall Tarley of Horn Hill, his great sword Heartsbane propped up against the back of his seat. Others she knew only by their sigils, and some not at all. So, and then Renly's called a ghost in a golden crown right after that. So, okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you how Loras and Lyanna are playing the same symbolic role. But first, let me pop over to my email and check the paypal.me's. Let's see here. Somebody's first name is Rowan. How appropriate, like the Rowan tree. Please do a video on the true king, the Manus himself. We will definitely do a Stannis character study live stream. Absolutely. No doubt about that. There's another one from the same fellow, Rowan, with no question this time. Cool. The first one was actually from a couple of days ago. And going back in time, there's one from Kylie. Thanks for your work. It's very cool and eye-opening. I had no idea that Venus was the star of the morning or the even star. Love all that symbolism with Dawn and the Danes. My question is, have you discussed the symbolism of the even star of Tarth? I haven't watched every video, so maybe I missed it. So let me know which one to check out. Only obliquely and tangentially. Brienne is certainly due for a character study episode, and that would be a good excuse to get into that. So yeah. I will just, as a sneak peek, I will tell you that Brienne is a lot like Jon Snow. She's got icy other symbolism, but she's very clearly a noble, heroic figure. And that's the good other figure. And the last hero figure, sometimes that is. And so her even star symbolism is going to be similar to, it's a way to tie her into like the Lightbringer and the Night's Watch and all that sort of last hero symbolism. Because don't forget, she has the Galadon of Morn story that she carries with her, which is very Azor Ahai-like, but also it's like a combination of the Azor Ahai story with the language of dawn and morning. So that's really cool. And then, yeah, so that's the whole point of the, like, if you look at the sigil of Tarth, it's got the sun and the moon, basically morning, sunrise and sunset. So these are the liminal times, the crossover times, when the seasons turn, when day turns to night. And so, yes, it's basically just a way of tying her into all that Azor Ahai stuff, because she's a very important last hero figure, showing us the true heroic of ideals of Song of Ice and Fire, right? No chance and no choice, she says, as she stands up to overwhelming odds, ready to sacrifice her life to save innocent people, just like Dany would, just like Jon would. So yeah, Brienne definitely goes in that bucket of true heroes. 1 second, guys. Guilty Undertaker with a nice call. Brienne faces 7 bloody mummers with only 2 companions. Tower of Joy math. Also, similar math to the Waymar prologue if you count Waymar on both sides, because Waymar switches sides. So yeah, very cool. Nice one. Who would Renly's small council be? Oh, Lord, I haven't even the slightest clue. A bunch of Tyrells. How about that? Whatever sort of political appointments would be, I'm not sure. I've got my brain totally in the symbolism mode right now, so I'm really not sure. But you guys can, if you have ideas on that, we judged Renly as being pretty politically savvy, so he'd make pretty good picks. Be a combination of competence and political loyalty, shenanigans and machinations. That's what I was trying to say. I'm going to brew another cup of tea in a little bit, by the way. But I'm going for a lozenge right now. All right. So Loras and Lyanna. Okay, so Lyanna, first of all, associated with the pale blue flowers, of course, the winter roses, right? She is Robert's love. No, Renly is doing the same stuff as Robert. So he needs a pale blue rose maiden to fall in love with too. And he's got one. And that maiden is Loras. When the Knight of Flowers made his entrance, a murmur ran through the crowd, and he heard Sansa's fervent whisper, "Oh, he's so beautiful." Sir Loras Tyrell was slender as a reed, dressed in a suit of fabulous silver armor polished to a blinding sheen, and filigreed with twining black vines and tiny blue forget-me-nots. So there's that silver armor again, mirror armor, just like the warrior's sons. Black vines and tiny blue forget-me-nots. Forget-me-nots are flowers, so he's got blue flowers. And it says, the commons realized in the same instant as Ned that the blue of the flowers came from sapphires. A gasp went up from 1,000 throats. Across the boy's shoulders, his cloak hung heavy. It was woven of forget-me-nots, real ones, hundreds of fresh blooms sewn to a heavy woolen cape. His courser was as slim as her rider, a beautiful gray mare built for speed. So there's just tons of Lyanna language here. You can see it everywhere. Blue flowers right off the top of the bat. They're called forget-me-nots. And so I've joked that they could be called promise me Neds, because that's Lyanna's dying, promise me, Ned. So it's very like saying, don't forget me. Don't forget your promise. So that to me sounds like a reference to that. Then they're associated with sapphires, which of course are blue star symbols. So we've got the blue eyes of the others. Remember at the Tower of Joy, the cloak hung heavy. Yeah, make your jokes. At the Tower of Joy, pay attention, the Tower of Joy, okay, blue petals blowing out the window like the eyes, blue is the eyes of death. So we've got an association between the eyes of the others and blue flowers. And so here we've got more blue flowers made from sapphires, which are like blue stars. So this is Lyanna language, it's Night's Queen language, it's other language. And so, again, as you can see, just as Robert has Lyanna, Renly has Loras, and Loras is playing that same symbolic role. The real role here is Ice Moon, which is usually female but can be male as well. And you remember Sir Gregor, the day before he fights Sir Loras, he fights Sir Hugh of the Vale, who's all blue and white with the moons on it, and the moons were turned bloody red when Sir Gregor hit him in the throat with the lance. So you get the throat wound, drowning the moon in blood. Even Hugh of the Vale is actually talking about colors, the color of the veil being, he has the veil colors, literally the blue and white colors of the veil. He's Hugh of the Vale, guys. He's got the veil colors, the blue and white. So then Lyanna, of course, her other symbolism is that she's the Knight of the Laughing Tree, right? The story that Jojen and Mira tell Bran about the tourney of Harrenhal, which was referred to as the Knight of the Laughing Tree story. This is basically, it involves Howland Reed and Lyanna, and essentially Howland Reed gets picked on by some Frey and a couple other knights, and Lyanna, sticking up for him, dresses up in armor and enters the tournament as a mystery knight because Lyanna is a very good horseman, half centaur like her brother Brandon. And so she, and it's said elsewhere in the book that, if you're a skilled horseman, you can joust with the best of them. And of course, we've just seen Sir Loras, who's very thin and light. He's a small dude. He just unhorsed rather, Sir Gregor, the Mountain. So you can see that someone like Lyanna, who is strong enough to ride a horse, she can definitely hold a lance. Because of her horse riding skill, she would be able to be the Knight of the Laughing Tree, as she is, very clear. And then she unhorses, those three knights in the tourney and teaches them a lesson. Now, the cool line about the Knight of the Laughing Tree is that after she beats these three knights, she speaks in a booming voice in her helm. And this is Lyanna in her helm. But because of the helm being on, people can't tell that it's a female voice because it booms out of the helm. The same trick happens with Brienne when she beats Loras at the tourney that we read last week. Brienne, with her helmet on, her voice booms, and Catelyn still keeps saying "sir" and doesn't realize it's a woman until she takes the helm off, and then her voice changes. So there's all these little clues about Knight of the Laughing Tree that are scattered around, and some of them are found attached to Sir Loras, which is interesting because Loras is doing the same thing. So Lyanna has the blue rose symbolism, and she's also a weirwood knight, right? The Knight of the Laughing Tree sigil is a weirwood face. So think about that. You've got other symbolism, and then you've got a tree knight character. And so Loras, then he's got the Lyanna blue flower symbolism, but then he also takes up with Renly and hangs out with all these tree knights. And of course, he's from the Reach anyway. So very cool overlap between Loras and Lyanna. And then let's see. Margaery has more standard Nissa Nissa Child of the Forest symbolism. So listen to this whole paragraph about the description of Renly and Margaery. And think about a green man and a child of the forest, Nissa Nissa here. In their midst, watching and laughing with his young queen by his side, sat a ghost in a golden crown. Small wonder the lords gather around him with such fervor, she thought. He is Robert come again. Renly was handsome as Robert had been handsome, long of limb and broad of shoulder, with the same coal-black hair, fine and straight, same deep blue eyes, the same easy smile. The slender circlet around his brows seemed to suit him well. It was soft gold, a ring of roses exquisitely wrought. At the front lifted a stag's head of dark green jade. So he's literally the green stag. He's a stag man. He's a green man. It's just important that the stag itself is what's green. Adorned with golden eyes, just like the children of the forest, and like the old ones on Lang with their golden eyes and golden antlers. The crowned stag decorated the king's green velvet tunic as well, worked in gold thread upon his chest. So he's dressed up like a green man, a green tunic, as well as the green armor. The Baratheon sigil in the colors of Highgarden. And this is a big clue that all the Baratheon stagman stuff comes from comes from Garth originally. You hope LML better see what? I'm not sure what we're. Yeah, sorry. I'm not going to try to follow. There's some spicy, scandalous conversation going on in the chat, but I can't quite follow it, so I'm not going to have the dead air time here. So, okay, Baratheon sigil in the colors of Highgarden. The girl who shared the high seat with him was also of Highgarden, his young queen, Margaery, daughter to Lord Mace Tyrell. Their marriage was the mortar that held the great Southern Alliance together, Catelyn knew. Renly was 1 and 20. The girl no older than Robb, meaning half a child, very pretty, with the doe's soft eyes and a mane of curling brown hair about her shoulder in lazy ringlets. Her smile was shy and sweet. And of course, the children of the forest are shy. Doe's eyes, that's the big giveaway, because the children of the forest have dappled skin like a doe. And of course, doe, deer, a female deer. A male deer is a stag who's associated with the sun. LML is the name I call myself. Okay, I'll stop. So this is, again, a child of the forest, Nissa Nissa figure. She is a daughter of the Reach, so she's a daughter of Garth, that kind of thing. Just like, if in Narnia, Aslan always says, son of Adam, daughter of Eve, right? So this is a daughter of Garth. Shout out to all you Chronicles of Narnia readers out there. And by the way, I'm going to cover Narnia on my channel soon. So if you're thinking about rereading Narnia, you should, because I'm most of the way through Magician's Nephew already. Can you tell me where the symbolism would be in the Targaryens and all their birth defects, like Dany's miscarriage and Rhaella's stillborn? So symbolism, that's not really a symbolism one. That is more like clues about the lineage of how we got Blood of the Dragon. All the blood experiments, the crossbreeding. So check out Dracomorph that's the Great Empire of the Dawn Dracomorph video. That one's, I go full, way deep on all that stuff. Symbolism-wise, there is a little bit there. So the idea, think about the original moon disaster, okay? The sun is the king, the moon is the queen. So this is a man and a wife. The comet is the impregnating seed of the sun, or the sword that stabs Nissa Nissa, same symbolism. And it goes into the moon, and then the moon gives birth to the dragons, which are really meteors, right? So these children, these dragon children, they're actually black meteors that destroy the world and turn out the lights. And they might have specific evil magic associated with them, as we've seen with the oily black stone. And so these are dead children, essentially. These are demon children, demon spawn, if you want to say. So Dany's child, she has a dead baby, and then she has dragons. So both of those ideas sort of complement the idea of these Deathbringer, Nightbringer meteors. These are the children of sun and moon. And in a same sense, like the children of the Targaryen crossbreeding are like abominations, if you will. When Azor Ahai invades the Weirwood, it's an abomination. The thing that is created when they combine is an abomination. This is all abomination, hashtag. I'm just going back up, make sure I didn't miss any other super chats. There's one. What is your favorite Green Man symbolism? Tyson asks. In all of A Song of Ice and Fire. Well, Renly's death is right up there. I've got something that I'm going to put in the next video. Preston Greenfield joins the Kingsguard, right? So the Kingsguard is other symbolism. Preston Greenfield is from House Greenfield, has a castle called the Bower, which is made of weirwood. So literally a green man from a weirwood joins the Kingsguard and becomes an other. And the only other historical member of House Greenfield, Garth Greenfield. So there you go. Good stuff, right? So there's a little Green Man trivia for you, Tyson. Thank you very much. Hashtag abomination. And yes, you can submit questions via PayPal. Thank you, Mr. Karshnak. So let's see here. Is there anything else I want to hit before we go over to Robert's death? Warrior Sons got the Margaery thing. Also, Margaery is compared to Lyanna. Renly asks Ned if a picture of Margaery looks like Lyanna. I guess it'll be a painting or something. And Ned says no, because Renly is scheming to marry Margaery to Robert to supplant the Lannisters before this. That was actually the seed of the Renly Tyrell alliance. He was trying to bring the Tyrells in as a new alliance to strengthen Robert so that they could ditch the Lannisters, which is actually a pretty good idea, to be honest. Let's see here. So yeah, I think that's it for Renly's death. So let's do Robert's death now. We are going to come back for the resurrected Renly stuff, but first we'll do Robert's death. Now, Robert's death is set up by a bit of hunting. The boar and the man not fair. Yeah, it's not as catchy, but that's definitely what's going on. So just remember that Renly was killed by a black shadow representing Azor Ahai. All right. So it says, a white hart had been sighted in the Kingswood, and Lord Renly and Sir Barristan had joined the king to hunt it, along with Sir Joffrey, Sandor Clegane, Balon Swan, and half the court. So Ned must needs sit the Iron Throne in his absence. Well, here's the thing. The white hart is a symbol of basically immortality, if you will. It's kind of an unobtainable thing that you quest after, but it's a symbol of like a rare and pure thing. You're not supposed to hunt the white stag. The fact that Robert wants to hunt it is actually like kind of bad. It's kind of like he's hunting the symbol of his own house. It's also like think about purity. It's a symbol of Cernunnos, actually. The white stag specifically is associated with Cernunnos. It's like the thing that can lead you to the other world as well. So he's chasing immortality, but he's being led to the other world to obtain it, essentially. Think about it that way. Excuse me. And 1 second here. I'm going to try the Hennessy. The other thing I've got 3 things for the throat today. I've got the tea, I've got the lozenges, and I've got the Hennessy, which is an old singer's trick. Sort of clear the cobwebs out, by the way. Also, this is the, oh yeah, see? This is the VSOP, so it's aged longer, a little smoother. So we've got he's hunting the white hart. That's what he's doing when he's led to his death. Now here's Sansa talking about the white hart while they're hunting. She's talking to Jane Poole and she says, "I had a dream that Joffrey would be the one to take the white hart," she said. It had been more of a wish, actually, but it sounded better to call it a dream. Everyone knew that dreams were prophetic. White harts were supposed to be very rare and magical, and in her heart she knew her gallant prince was worthier than his drunken father. A dream, truly? Did Prince Joffrey just go up to it and touch it with his bare hand and do it no harm? No, Sansa said. He shot it with a golden arrow and brought it back for me. In the songs, the knights never killed magical beasts. They just went up to them and touched them and did them no harm. But she knew Joffrey liked hunting, especially the killing part. So pretty cool foreshadowing here. It's, if you speaking of omens, like this is very omen heavy. Think back to the Starks when they found the direwolf and the stag having killed one another in the snow, right? Yeah, the white stag reminds me of the forest god in Princess Mononoke, Lauren Griffith says. That's because the white stag is a symbol of Cernunnos and just a sort of a symbol of a very rare thing. It's an albino stag, essentially. So, actually, no, I'm sorry. It's not an albino. It's Lukism, which is different than albinism, which is a weird deep dive of research you can go down if you're trying to figure out why the Valerians have purple eyes. But in any case, you can see here, like the true knights, they go up to the magical beast and they don't kill them. Joffrey wants to kill it. What's his name? Robert wants to kill it. And these people are both going to get symbolic stagman deaths themselves. So then here's Ned again. Is there word of the king? Ned demanded. Just how long does Robert intend to hunt? Given his preferences, and this is Peter Baelish talking, I believe he'd stay in that forest until you and the queen both die of old age, Lord Peter replied with a faint smile. Lacking that, I imagine he'll return as soon as he's killed something. They found the white hart, it seems, or rather what remained of it. Some wolves found it first and left his grace scarcely more than a hoof and a horn. Robert was in a fury until he heard talk of some monstrous boar deeper in the forest. Then nothing would do but he must have it. Prince Joffrey returned this morning with the Royces, Sir Balon Swan, and some 20 others of the party. The rest are still with the king. So we've got some action here. We've got others and Kingsguard hunting with Robert in the woods. We've got George is reminding us of that symbol of the direwolf and the stag that the Starks found in Winterfell or near Winterfell. It's the same symbol, another stag killed by wolves. And so this is happening right as Ned is making moves that contribute to Robert's downfall. Like, it's hard. I mean, I hate to blame Ned, he's trying to act honorably or whatever, but this was their chance to sort of expose Cersei and spring this trap. And both Robert and Ned kind of screwed it up. So happy 420 to Poga Poga Samoa. Let Garth be praised. Nice. American Samoa. USA. All right. Cracking tacos with the smoke emoji. Very nice. Dab it up. Praise Garth. Yada, yada. So I'm sorry. Did I just yada, yada praise Garth? I will penalize myself. 1 second. And we're back. The Samoans are awesome. The most represented group in the NFL and the military. Samoans are also just like really cool people. I lived in San Francisco for a long time, and there's a lot of Samoans in San Francisco. So shout out to Samoa randomly. Okay. All right. So like we were saying, where were we? Lisa had better get right with the gods. Yeah, nice. Craster's words thrown back in my teeth. Very well. Very well. Okay. So let's see here. Okay. So where I totally lost my place. Oh, yes, Robert's death. So he's hunting the white stag. Martin is reminding us of this omen of the wolves killing the stag. Really, they're sort of dying together is really the key thing here. But this is a bad omen. If this is a magical animal, it's supposed to represent Cernunnos, i.e. the vitality of the woods and stuff like that. It's been killed, and Robert is about to die. So pretty clearly a foreshadowing of Robert's death himself. Like I said, just a very bad omen. And now they're going after a monstrous boar. So we're going to hear more about this boar in Robert's actual death scene, which I shall get ready to read now. This is a Game of Thrones. Oh, and did you catch that Robert was hunting when Bran had his accident too? Bran doesn't die, but that's a symbolic Summer King death event. Also a lightning striking the weirwood event, and Robert was hunting as well. So the whole point is that, like, Garth, the woods are the abattoir of the gods, right? That's a great line. Cersei's talking about that in reference to how easy it is for kings to die in the woods, falling from their horse or whatever. Robert literally dies in the woods in his hunting greens. And the woods being the abattoir of the gods has extra meaning when you think about the weirwoods and blood sacrifice. So, and they're literally the old gods. The weirwoods are their abattoir. So very cool stuff. So this is an Eddard chapter. The beginning of the chapter I'm starting with because it starts in the crypts of Winterfell. By the way, I hope you guys enjoy my my comedic trailers that I've got going on my videos with Robert and now old Nan down in the crypts. I'm gonna keep adding people to the crypts as we go. I've got a new one, be someone new in the crypts next week, so just watch out. Anyways, I don't want to give it away, but I'm having a little too much fun with that. Shout out to the architects, Monty Python, the architect sketch. Yes, we ordered a block of flats, not an abattoir. There's a joke for 1% of the audience. He was walking through the crypts beneath Winterfell, as he had walked 1,000 times before. The kings of winter watched him pass with eyes of ice, and the direwolves at their feet turned their great stone heads and snarled. Last of all, he came to the tomb where his father slept, with Brandon and Lyanna beside him. "Promise me, Ned," Lyanna's statue whispered. She wore a garland of pale blue roses and her eyes wept blood. So this is good weirwood symbolism for Lyanna here. She's a statue, and the weirwoods turn to stone when they're dead, and her eyes are bleeding. So think of the bloody eyes of the weirwood. So very cool. Of course, Lyanna was the Knight of the Laughing Tree, which is weirwood symbolism as well. So that's simply continuing on here. Lyanna as a weirwood, Nissa, child woman, child of the forest. You guys got the idea. Eddard Stark jerked upright, his heart racing, the blankets tangled around him. The room was black as pitch, and someone was hammering on the door. "Lord Eddard," a voice called loudly. "A moment." Groggy and naked, he stumbled his way across the darkened chamber. When he opened the door, he found Tomard with an upraised fist and Catelyn with a taper in hand. Between them stood the king's own steward. The man's face might have been carved of stone, so little did it show. "My lord Hand," he intoned. "His grace the king commands your presence at once." So kind of continuing the Crips language with the taper and the man made of stone. So it's kind of like the Kings of Winter are talking to him there. It's kind of interesting. Anyways, so Robert had returned from his hunt. It was long past time. "I shall need a few moments to dress." Ned left the men waiting without. Cain helped him with his clothes. White linen tunic and great cloak, trousers cut open down his plaster-sheathed leg, his badge of office, and last of all, a belt of heavy silver links. He sheathed a Valyrian dagger at his waist. Ned's a last hero figure, by the way. That's why he's got a Valyrian weapon. Let's see. The Red Keep was dark and still as Cain and Tomard escorted him across the inner bailey. The moon hung low over the walls, ripening towards full. Ripening. So when the moon is ripening, that means it's ready to be harvested. So what's happening is we're about to harvest the moon. We're about to kill the moon. And of course, even though the green men are sun kings, they're solar associated like Cernunnos, we know the sun and moon die together when the long night happens. What are y'all talking about, Patchface now? What do you want? What do we want about Patchface? Like we could talk about Maester Crescent wearing Patchface's helm, who dies the same way that Renly and Robert and Joffrey do in symbolic terms, because that's another dying stag man. But yeah, maybe I might do a Patchface stream. Patchface is like all weirwood symbolism, basically. But okay, so where was I? So the moon's ripening towards full. On the ramparts, guardsmen in gold cloaks walked the rounds. The royal apartments were in Maegor's Holdfast, a massive square fortress that nestled in the heart of the Red Keep, behind walls 12 feet high and a dry moat lined with iron spikes, a castle within a castle. Sir Boros Blount guarded the far end of the bridge, white steel armor ghostly in the moonlight. So there's definite others language there. Within, Ned passed two other knights of the King's Guard. Other knights. Sir Preston Greenfield, who we just talked about, stood at the bottom of the steps, and Sir Barristan Selmy waited at the door of the king's chambers. Three men in white cloaks, he thought, remembering, and a strange chill went through him. Sir Barristan's face was as pale as his armor. Ned had only to look at him to know something was dreadfully wrong. So just hitting you over the head with the King's Guard other symbolism. There are other knights. Barristan's face is as pale as his white armor, so he's got a snow white face. A chill's going through him. Preston Greenfield, who used to live in a weirwood castle. So, the royal steward opened the door. "Lord Eddard Stark, Hand of the King," he announced. "Bring him here," Robert's voice called. "Bring him here," Robert's voice called, strangely thick. Fires blazed in the twin hearths at either end of the bedchamber, filling the room with a sullen red glare. Oh, by the way, I saw a question a minute ago about which questions I will answer. Someone says, "I'm new, and will he answer questions?" He won't answer questions unless you send money. Is that how it works? So basically, when I'm in the flow of a stream, I'm generally only going to stop for a super chat or a question that catches my eye that is kind of like on topic. Like I've done a few of those tonight. I do periodically do open Q&A ones where I basically just try to take as many questions as possible. I probably do for one of those too. So if you're trying to get a question in right now and you're frustrated, I'm very sorry. Don't be frustrated. There's two ways you can get it to me. You can leave a comment. As soon as the live stream's over, you can comment on the video. I always check the comments the first couple days after a new video. So there's very high likelihood I'll be able to answer. and we can have a little discussion going. You can also hit me up on Twitter at the Dragon LML, or like I said, you can wait for one of those open Q&As and hit me then. So there's several ways to get a question, even if you don't have money to send. I do have to try to make money, obviously, but that's not the only way you can get a question answered. So I hope that makes sense and helps you feel not frustrated. I do my best. So there we go. And I have ADD pretty severely. So here we are. Fires blazed in twin hearths at either end of the bedchamber, filling the room with a sullen red glare. I kind of like that setup. It sounds kind of ritualistic. I don't have anything specific to say. There's no reference there, but you just imagine two hearths on either end of the chamber. So you're in between the twin fires. It's kind of cool. So inside, the heat within was suffocating. Think of the heat inside of Renly's tent. Robert lay across the canopied bed. At the bedside hovered Grandmaster Pycelle, while Lord Renly paced restlessly before the shuttered windows. Servants moved back and forth, feeding logs to the fire and boiling wine. Cersei Lannister, and boiling wine, that's just waves of night and burning moon blood symbolism. So think about blood and also bleeding stars, which are really fiery meteors. It's all the same symbolism. There's lots of blood drinking in all of these scenes. Renly's blood comes out of his neck like a red tide. They're drinking wine right before that. Joffrey, the Red Wedding, he drinks wine and gets poisoned, and his face turns purple. Robert was too drunk in the woods drinking wine. You remember the trees that were drunk and leaning towards the sea? That's the same idea. This is all like blood drinking symbolism here is what you should think about. And also, I guess, drinking the food, the mead of poetry, or the food of the gods, et cetera, et cetera. So it says, Cersei Lannister sat on the edge of the bed beside her husband. Her hair was tousled as if from sleep, but there was nothing sleepy in her eyes. They followed Ned as Tomard and Caen helped him cross the room. He seemed to move very slowly, as if he were still dreaming. So think about this as kind of being a dream, just like Renly's magical castle alive with light, which is like the inside of the Weirwood net, which Stannis dreams and sends his shadow baby into. So same idea. The king still wore his boots. Ned could see dried mud and blades of grass clinging to the leather where Robert's feet stuck out beneath the blanket that covered him. A green doublet lay on the floor, slashed open and discarded, the cloth crusted with red-brown stains. The room smelled of smoke and blood and death. So same as Renly's tent. We've got the green covered over in blood. We've got the smell of smoke and blood and death, just like the fire that happened in the tent. Elisa, I wonder how many times Cersei tried this getting Robert so drunk while he dies hunting plan before it finally worked. That's a valid question. That's good. And then it says, so again, wearing his hunting green. So even though Robert doesn't wear, okay, so Renly wears green and he aligns with Highgarden. So he gets more green symbolism. Robert has the black and yellow Baratheon symbolism, but these hunting greens are a way to make the green man symbolism clear. And it's most significant that he dies in the hunting greens. That's the key here. So. Interesting little bit of symbolism here from Slick Willy 91 or Slick Will 91. Egyptians believed the amethyst, wine purple, was the stone and color of the goat, enemy of the vine in vineyards because, of course, the goats eat the vines. Yeah, it sounds like a variant on the Bacchus symbolism, right? Where Bacchus being sort of a goat version of the horned lord, like Pan or Cernunnos, and loves to drink and get drunk, right? So it's nice. It's a combination of like drinking wine and blood drinking symbolism that all gets wrapped up with this mythology. Nice. Thanks for adding that to the conversation. And yeah, we're going to talk about the Black Goat of Qohor, of course, is like a demon version of the Horned Lord. So, okay. So remember I've been saying, Oak King, Holly King, Garth is a summer king. Renly, Robert, summer king. Stannis is a horned god who's on the side of standing in for the Holly King. We have basically the idea of demons and winter and death. The great other R'hllor, they're all on that side of death. They're versions of the many-faced god, if you will. So Stannis is an evil horned lord, and we see that bifurcation. We see the green nature summer associated horned lords. We also see the death associated horned lords. Think about Vargo Hoat and the black goat of Qohor symbolism. Think about the idea that dragons have horns, right? Dragons as opposed to the stags. And then you've also those are the coins, right? The golden dragons, silver stags. So they're even set up opposite each other as horned animals of summer and winter. And then you've also got the idea of like Baphomet or just Satan and the devil, various goat and horned associations that the Western Christian world has associated with Satan and demons and stuff like that. So we see all of that stuff present here. And that brings us to the thing that killed Robert. Let's keep reading. Green doublet on the floor. The room smelled of smoke and blood and death. Ned, the king whispered when he saw him. His face was pale as milk. Come closer, because remember how Renly turned into a morning ghost? This is a green man turning into another. He's going to. So he's turning pale as milk. His men brought him close. Ned steadied himself with a hand on the bedpost. He had only to look down at Robert to know how bad it was. What? He began, his throat clenched. A boar. Lord Renly was still in his hunting greens, his cloak spattered with blood. So Renly's right there, just to show you the same symbolism. A devil, the king husked. My own fault. Too much wine, damn me to hell. Missed my thrust. So it's a black devil of a boar. Compare that. So it's basically, I think of a horned creature associated with darkness. This is the same as Stannis' shadow, right? Stannis is a stag man, and he sends his shadow to kill a green man, Renly. So you've got a black shadow associated with horned figures and demons going to kill Renly. And now we have a black devil of a boar that kills Robert. So that's why on the title of this episode, and let me just pull up the art here. Put the two death scenes juxtaposed to try to make this point. That is what I was trying to get across. So check it out. Appreciate my thoughtfulness here. Yes, so we've got, like I said, you can see the black devil boar and the black shadow that kills Renly are kind of in the same spot. And we've got the green men getting ready to die in the lower part of the picture. So you can see it literally is the same symbolism. And I was just fortunate enough to find these pictures that kind of line it up and spell it out there. So Renly's in a green tent. Robert is in the woods. Renly's green tent is surrounded by Knights of Summer who are like trees. Robert's literally in the woods, surrounded by others and Kingsguard. And then, of course, Renly's tree knights turn into others. So you can see how similar all of this is. It's real similar. So continuing on, and there's more. Okay, so a black devil of a boar, and let's see. And where were the rest of you? Ned demanded of Lord Renly. Where was Sir Barristan and the Kingsguard? Renly's mouth twitched. My brother commanded us to stand aside and let him take the boar alone. Eddard Stark lifted the blanket. They had done what they could to close him up, but it was nowhere near enough. The boar must have been a fearsome thing. It had ripped the king from groin to nipple with its tusks. The wine-soaked bandages that Grand Maester Pycelle had applied were already black with blood, and the smell of the wound was hideous. Ned's stomach turned. He let the blanket fall. And that black blood is an important symbol. That's a corruption, very clear corruption of the bloodline symbolism. So think about the corruption of the Weirwood blood, which turns black by night, all that kind of stuff. Stinks, Robert said. The stink of death. Don't think I can't smell it. Bastard did me good, eh? But I paid him back in kind, Ned. The king's smile was as terrible as his wound. His teeth red. Drove a knife right through his eye. Ask him if I didn't. Ask them. Truly, Lord Renly murmured, we brought the carcass back with us at my brother's command. For the feast, Robert whispered. Now leave us, the lot of you. I need to speak with Ned. So, what just happened? Robert has red teeth, so bloody mouth. That's weirwood stigmata symbolism, just like Renly got the red smile throat cutting. Robert literally has a red smile. Robert gave Azor Ahai Odin symbolism to the boar by stabbing one of its eyes. And remember, Stannis wanted them half blind when they charged into the morning sun. And a different version of this Stannis Stagman Azor Ahai figure is, of course, Beric or Bloodraven, and they both have the one eye symbolism. So here we see the evil Azor Ahai figure. He's got the one eye symbolism as well. And let's see. And there's also the mutual death kind of a thing. Because Azor Ahai, when he goes into the Weirwood net, he also dies to get in there. That's how you get in the Weirwood net. You go through a death transformation, right? So Stannis, every time Stannis makes a shadow baby, his life fires are being drained. And Melisandre, after making 2 shadow babies from his life fire, says, I dare not make another one because the king's life fires burn so low. Another one might kill him. So doing the shadow babies is killing Stannis. It's making him look dead too. It makes his face look like a skull and all this other stuff. So same thing here. The boar dies along with Robert because Azor Ahai, the demon, dies to get inside the woods, to get inside the Weirwood net, and he kills green men at the same time. So it's a mutual death type of situation. It's spelled out pretty nicely here. Let's see here. Then there's more in this scene, but I'm going to skip ahead looking for the symbolism. He kicks Cersei out. He doesn't want Milk of the Poppy. Let's see here. Why do you always have to be so headstrong? Fuck you, Ned, the king said hoarsely. I killed the bastard, didn't I? A lock of matted black hair fell across his eyes as he glared up at Ned. Ought to do the same for you. Can't leave a man to hunt in peace. Sir Rogar found me. Gregor's head. Ugly thought. Never told the hound. Let Cersei surprise him. His laugh turned into a grunt as a spasm of pain hit him. Gods have mercy, he muttered, swallowing his agony. Then they go on. Let's see. This is all plot-centric stuff. Don't kill Daenerys. Write up the will. Bloody. Then he thinks about, there's comparisons to Lyanna's death as well. Obviously, he thinks about 3 Knights in White Cloaks going in here. He's thinking about the lies that he tells for love, which is a reference to Lyanna. And let's see here. Oh, by the way, I'll point out, so Robert won his throne from Rhaegar, right? Rhaegar wears the black armor and has the demonic dragon symbolism. And so Rhaegar is analogous to an evil Azor Ahai. He's analogous to the Black Devil Boar. So the Black Devil Boar killing Robert is kind of like the cycle turning again. The Green Man kills the dragon demon, then the demon dragon comes back and kills the Green Man. And again, you look at resurrected Renly on the Blackwater. He was killed by Stannis' demon shadow, but then he's resurrected and comes back and defeats Stannis' army. So it's that cycle of the seasons. And the reason why the cycle of the seasons, of course, is tied to all this stuff is because the last hero basically has to fix the long night, which is the seasons getting stuck. It's basic stuff, but it's important. Will you wear an N+A=J shirt on stream when the book confirms it if I buy it for you? Oh, yes. If I'm wrong about RLJ, I will absolutely be here to own it and take my lumps from all of you N+A=J truthers, as I like to call you. I'll be here. Yes, I love y'all. Y'all are good humored about your tinfoil for the most part. So I find it to be sporting. Yes, I will gladly humiliate myself with whatever N+A= t-shirt you can conjure up. Absolutely. That'll be very entertaining. That ain't going to happen, but if it does and I'm wrong, I will absolutely do that. Sure. You heard it here. I'm on record. I got no problem with that. It's always planning to do that if I'm wrong about that or any other major theory. I'm not one to hide. Don't think I'm right about everything. So it's fine to be wrong or just guessing here and stuff. So, all right, let's see here. So yeah, the Black Devil Boar is a repeating of Rhaegar. So very cool. Robert even refers to the boar. Yeah, he says, the gods sent the boar to punish me. So it really is like, justice or fate reaching out to even things out. And let's see if there's anything else from this scene. He wants the boar to be served at the feast. I'm not sure if that's got a whole lot of symbolism. I guess it just, Azor Ahai is consumed by the weirwood net, right? The weirwood has the bloody mouth. Azor Ahai's spirit goes into the tree, so the tree is eating his spirit. So I guess that's the idea with everybody's got to eat the boar. Ashara is not Dany's mom. Nope, I don't believe that one either. But I'll own it if I'm wrong. That's the fun. We're here to have fun, right? So let's see here. I'm opinionated, but I like fun, and I'm not afraid of humiliating myself. That's about what I can say for myself. Oh yeah, finally, Robert does drink the milk of the poppy. He says, give me something for the pain and let me die. Milk of the poppy is, of course, weirwood paste symbolism. Ned has milk of the poppy before he has the Tower of the Joy dream. So it's frequently given to someone before they go into a dream or they die. So it's kind of like eating the weirwood paste, going into the weirwood net. And then Robert even asks, will I dream? And Ned says, you will, my lord. And he says, good. I will give Lyanna your love, Ned. Take care of my children for me. So Lyanna, right? She's the weirwood goddess Nissa figure. She's inside the woods, inside the weirwood net. And so Robert is dying, going into the trees, and he's going to see Lyanna. Or you could say he's being turned into a Night's Queen, and he's going to see Lyanna because Lyanna is a Night's Queen figure, but that's still inside the weirwood net, really. So it's kind of the same thing. Let's see here. It says, Renly might have been Robert's ghost as he stood there, young and dark and handsome. He slew the boar. His entrails were sliding from his belly, and yet somehow he slew the boar. His voice was full of wonder. Robert was never a man to leave the battleground so long as a foe remained standing, Ned told him. Sorry. No, you didn't miss anything. It's fine. It's fine. It'll be better. Like the first time I said it, it was kind of rambly. The second time it was pretty good. This time it'll be perfect. So it says, Ned had not heard the eunuch approach, but when he looked around, there he stood. He wore a black velvet robe that brushed the floor, and his face was freshly powdered. The wine was from the king's own skin, Sir Barristan said. Only one skin? Hunting is such thirsty work. So, yeah, the wine was from the king's own skin. Think about that. Remember I said that all the wine drinking is like drinking blood, right? It's like Jesus and communion. The wine is blood. It's all the blood sacrifice. The weirwood's drinking blood. So the wine is from the king's own skin. Like that is Cernunnos, the green man, pouring out his blood as a sacrifice, which is exactly what he's supposed to do. So very cool. Beric Dondarrion gives the Ghost of High Heart wine from his own wineskin. And she always asks for the wine. Did you bring me my wine? And then Beric gives it to her. And then she says, the king is dead. And she's talking about Robert. So another one where an Azor Ahai figure giving wine from his own skin, and just, and Robert's death is mentioned. Then, like I said, Patchface, right? He's got the antlered helm. Well, when Maester Crescent dies, Melisandre has just put the Patchface helm on him. So he's a stag man. Then he drinks his own poisoned wine that he himself poisoned. So he's drinking wine from his own skin, if you will. And then he dies, blood out of his mouth, weirwood stigmata, antler symbolism, right in front of Stannis. So it's the same symbolism yet again. And like I said, Joffrey drinks wine from his own chalice and then is poisoned. And his face turns purple, which is the color of the wine, but it's also the face of the sun turning dark. Because if you see the sun through a very cloudy sky, like if there's wildfires or something, it either looks red or purple, depending on how much smoke there is. So, very good stuff here. And like I said, all these scenes are tied together with all the symbolism. Now, the most important thing is the others, right? Like when we read Renly's whole death scene, it seemed to be about those summer nights and the trees turning into other-like warriors, going over to Stannis and stuff. So similar thing here. We see the others outside of the room, and then we go in and we see Robert dying. And so it's like the others are basically waiting all around as Robert dies. And also we see that the others, the Kingsguard, were with Robert in the woods when he was hunting. So very similarly, all that symbolism. And then Robert himself is doing the othery transformation as well. Then also, I remember, right? There is one more echo of it. Renly offers to put 100 swords in Ned Stark's hands. Ned Stark is a king of winter, and Renly's swords, those are Renly's army. That's the same army that we saw. Those are the Knights of Summer. So Renly's only has a few people with him, but those are his knights. So he's trying to put those Knights of Summer in the hands of Ned, who's a king of winter, whose, symbolism is very similar to a last hero version of Azor Ahai. He's on the Stannis end of things as a king of winter. So, and so even though Ned doesn't kill Robert, I want to be real clear. Ned and Robert have a lot of sexual tension. They're friends. They're very good friends. Let's not dance around the weirwood stump here. However, the whole point of the thing about the wolf and the stag having killed each other is that Robert and Ned's actions contribute to each other's deaths. And this is absolutely what happens. And so Ned's presence in Robert's deathbed chamber is analogous to the Shadow Baby. Ned has that same symbolism. Remember at the Tower of Joy, Ned and his soldiers are gray wraiths, just like the Shadow Baby is a shadow soldier, just like the last Night's Watch are black shadows. So Ned standing by Robert's death is the same as the shadow standing over dead Renly in terms of symbolism, even though the alliances are slightly different. Because even though Ned and Robert are friends, the omens suggest that their actions have killed one another. And then, like we said, the white stag in the woods was killed by wolves. So here's Renly trying to give his swords, his Knights of Summer, over to Ned, who's playing the Stannis role here. So it's the same parallel there with the Stannis scene. Oh, yes. And then Ned goes to the Godswood after that. So we've got more like into the weirwood symbolism. Yeah, it's right there. And I think that's pretty much it from this scene. So we're getting up to almost to 2 hours. So let me get this resurrected Renly quote in here because it's really good. There is both the The talk of Renly's shade. Okay, so it says, Captain Corraine had told him, Davos, of the end of Stannis' hopes on the night the river burned. And the river, of course, is the Weirwood Net. So the river burning, that's the Weirwood Net burning. The Lannisters had taken him from the flank, and his fickle bannermen... I'm sorry, let me back up. The river we're talking about flows from the God's Eye. So not only does it symbolize the Weirwood Net because it's a sea, it's literally water that flows from the God's Eye. So it's like the blood that flows from the Weirwood's eyes. It's like the sea that flows from the Isle of the Weirwood trees. Same symbolism. So it's on fire, with green fire, by the way. The Lannisters had taken him in the flank, and his fickle bannermen had abandoned him by the hundreds in the hour of its greatest need. King Renly's shade was seen as well, the captain said, slaying right and left as he led the Lion Lord's van. So solar symbolism. It said his green armor took a ghostly glow from the wildfire. His antlers ran with golden flames. So similar, remember the gold in his green armor was like fire in the woods? So here we've got that symbolism again. He's a flaming stag now. And then it said, Renly's shade. Davos wondered if his sons would return as shades as well. He had seen too many queer things on the sea to say that ghosts did not exist. So the shades are coming from the sea, you guys, from the Green Sea. Let's see here. It was Ser Dantos who brought her word. Oh, shoot, this is going to be in... One second, let me look this up. I did better about having all my quotes ready this week. But this one I did not have. It was Ser Dantos who brought her the word. He staggered through her open door, that's Sansa, by the way, wrapped her in his flabby arms and whirled her around the room, whooping so incoherently that Sansa understood not a word of it. He was as drunk as the hound had been, but in him he was a dancing, happy drunk. She was breathless and dizzy when he let her down. What is it? She clutched at a bedpost. What happened? Tell me. It's done. Done. The city is saved. Lord Stannis is dead. Lord Stannis has fled. No one knows. No one cares. His host is broken. The danger's done. Slaughtered, scattered, or gone over, they say. Oh, the bright banners. The banners, Jonquil, the banners. Do you have any wine? We ought to drink to this day. Yes. It means you're safe, don't you see? And then... Sorry, I'm doing this in a search of ice and fire. Tell me what's happened, Sansa shook him. Ser Dantos laughed and hopped from one leg to the other, almost falling. So the same as he's a fool now. He's doing the patch face routine. He's staggering. He's drunk. So he's just like a drunken stag fool character. They came up through the ashes while the river was burning. So there's another Weirwood symbolism. Weirwoods are modeled after Yggdrasil, which is an ash tree. So up through the ashes while the river was burning. The river, Stannis was neck deep in the river, and they took him from the rear. Oh, to be a knight again, to have been part of it. So Stannis is neck deep in the river. That's great. He's wading into the Green Sea, just like he invaded Renly's forest. Oh, to be a knight again, to have been part of it. His own men hardly fought, they say. Some ran, but more bent the knee and went over, shouting for Lord Renly. What must Stannis have thought when he heard that? I heard it from Osney Kettleblack, who had it from Sir Osmond. But Sir Balin's back now, and his men say the same, and the gold cloaks as well. We're delivered, sweetling. And it says, let's see here. The Golden Rose and the Golden Lion and all the others, the Marbrand tree and the Rowan, Tarly's huntsman and Redwine's grapes, and Lord Owen's leaf, Lady Oakheart's leaf, all the Westermen, all the power of Highgarden and Casterly Rock. Lord Tywin himself had the right wing on the north side of the river with Randall Tarly commanding the center, blah, blah, blah. They plunged through Stannis like a lance through a pumpkin, every man of them howling like some demon in steel. And do you know who led the vanguard? Do you? Do you? Spoiler alert, it was Renly. Rob? It was too much to be hoped, but I don't know where Sansa pulls that from. And then he says, it was Lord Renly. Lord Renly in his green armor, with the fires shimmering off his golden antlers. Lord Renly with his tall spear in his hand. They say he killed Sir Guyard Morgan himself in single combat, and a dozen other great knights as well. It was Renly, it was Renly, it was Renly. Oh, the banners. Darling Sansa, oh, to be a knight. So Sir Guyard Morgan is Sir Guyard the Green, one of Renly's Rainbow Guard, and he went over to Stannis. So he's an other knight. And it says him and a dozen other knights were killed by resurrected Renly. So resurrected Renly is clearly a last hero figure. With his demons are the Night's Watch demons. They're undead green zombie demons. And he has killed the green men who became others. So this is a very much an opposite inversion of everything that was happening in Renly's death scene, because he's been resurrected. And then we have Renly's Ride from gray-bearded Hamish the Harper, who announced that he would perform "For the Ears of Gods and Men, a song never heard before in all the 7 kingdoms." He called it Lord Renly's Ride. His fingers moved across the strings of the high harp, filling the throne room with sweet sound. "From his throne of bones, the Lord of Death looked down on the murdered lord," Hamish began, and went on to tell how Renly, repenting his attempt to usurp his nephew's crown, had defied the Lord of Death himself and crossed back to the land of the living to defend the realm against his brother. And for this, poor Simon wound up in a bowl of brown, Tyrion mused. Queen Margaery was teary-eyed by the end, when the shade of brave Lord Renly flew to Highgarden to steal one last look at his true love's face. Renly Baratheon never repented of anything in his life, the imp told Sansa. But if I'm any judge, Hamish just won himself a gilded lute. So that's pretty cool for a sort of psychopomp symbolism, the Lord of Death. So Renly goes to the realm of dead and then comes back. So this is actually really good green zombie symbolism, right? He's been allowed to come back to the land of the living to fight against the evil Azor Ahai figure. And he was a flaming stag man when he did it. So pretty cool stuff. And I just always love the sort of song trivia that George throws in. So I had to get that one in. And then let's see here. To finish, and we're just about done, I will check my email. I will take last call for questions. And then I'm going to do one thing about the Robin and the Wren that I want to explain to you. And I'll just take a couple of minutes. So let me pop over to my email. Christian said, well-deserved for the Hot Summer Nights title and the King Robert impression, also for the excellent content. Thank you very much. Happy to please, happy to please. And, okay, that one from Rowan, I got that one already. There's one from Andrew from earlier, actually this week. Your streams help keep my nose to the grindstone, turning nickels into dimes. Figured I'd share a few. Hope this goes to Burning Good Herb. Check out, he's giving me a recommendation, the California Collective in San Jose. For those of you who are in the Bay Area, very cool. Thanks for the rec. I've got a lot of nice strains right now, actually. Let's see. And Christina. Thank you, Christina. And, okay, there we go. So we're all caught up there. Psychopomps. Yeah, that's a good word. It certainly is. And, okay, so the Robin and the Wren. I'm pretty sure I should still have this up in a tab. Hopefully. Yes, sacred birds, the Wren and the Robin. So Renly's name is not accidental. It is a reference to a bird, the wren, W-R-E-N, wren. So let's see here. Augury is the act, and this is from A Brief History of Augury by Nicole Canfield, which is a book you can buy. Augury is the act of reading birds and their flight patterns to tell the past, present, and future. It is one of the most ancient forms of divination, known to have been used in ancient Greece, Rome, the Celtic Empire, and Egypt, among other civilizations. It's also known as reading the auspices and ornithomancy. Oh, that's cool, ornithomancy. Birds were special creatures in that they could bridge the gap between man and heaven or the spirit world. Birds were messengers from the gods. Thank you, Andrea, for the super sticker. But also thought of as psychopomps in various cultures with the ability to guide the dead to other realms. All right, so let's see here. The Druids were into it. The robin, redbreast, and the wren, God Almighty's cock and hen. Him that harries their nest, never shall his soul have rest. Kill a robin or a wren, never prosper boy or men. These are sayings about the robin and the wren. Now, basically, the robin is the bird of winter, and the wren is the bird of summer. That's the first thing to know. So Renly being called the wren is basically yet another reference to him as a summer king and the cycle of the seasons. Let's see here. There is a story called Jenny Wren, which you can look up. The wren is also called, another name for the wren that occasionally crops up on parts of Dartmoor is that of Bran's sparrow. And this is thought to stem way back to the ancient times when the bird was connected to the old god Bran. It is due to this association that the wren was said to be a messenger of the gods and would deliver prophecies. So you can see that a lot of this idea is attached to the ravens instead of the wren. The ravens are the messengers of the old gods, you know, that which is coming out of Odin mythology. But that's cool that the wren occupies a similar role. And so we have King Renly, who is, again, he's supposed to be a green man, supposed to represent a weirwood avatar. So he is Bran's raven, or Bran's sparrow, if you will. Very cool. And of course, Bran is Welsh for raven. Yes, that is well known, I would hope. I think I did that mute wrong. Sorry, guys. You might have heard the coughing. Apologize. So the wren has always been a king, as its name in European language indicates. In Latin, Regulus, French. I'm not going to read all this. It's translated as king bird or little king. It symbolizes wisdom and divinity. At New Year, it said the apprentice druid would go out by himself into the countryside in search of hidden wisdom. If he found a wren, he would take that as a sign that he would be blessed with inner knowledge in the coming year. Finding a creature small and elusive to the point of invisibility was a metaphor for finding the elusive divinity within all life. Divination by the voices of birds. Okay, I don't need to read that. Oh, actually I do. Divination by the voices of birds was generally practiced, especially from the croaking of the raven and the chirping of the wren. The various syllables they utter and their interpretation are given to the old books. That's very interesting. The wren was sacred to the druids, who kept them in cages for divinatory purposes. The Proto-Celtic word drero, meaning true, was the origin for the word wren, druid, and soothsayer. Well, that's cool. A Manx folk tale, I don't know what Manx means, M-A-N-X, recounts how the wren became king of all the birds. All of the birds had gathered together to decide once and for all who would be first among them. In turn, each bird came forward to state what gifts they had, which set them above all the rest. Although the wren had proven her cleverness to the approval of the gathering, the eagle suggested that the bird who could fly the highest should be the one to rule over them all. The gathered birds agreed, and the eagle flew up as high as he could, far surpassing all the rest. He called out to the assembly, "I am the king of birds, king of all birds." But he didn't realize that the wren had hidden herself among his feathers. And as he made his proclamation, she jumped to the top of his head and cried out, "Not so, not so. I'm above him, I'm above him." And thus, through his cleverness, the wren became the king of birds. In his classic work, sorry, one second. Oh, a Manx story is one that is from the Isle of Man. Okay, I figured it was a region in England somewhere. Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay, so in his classic work, The Golden Bough, Fraser talks about the hunting of the wren, along with several examples of similar ritual behavior from other cultures around the world. He writes, "The worshipful animal is killed with special solemnity once a year, and before or immediately after death, he is promenaded from door to door, that each of his worshippers may receive a portion of the divine virtue that are supposed to emanate from the dead or dying god. And this is a dead wren they're talking about. So very cool symbolism. It just gets better the longer you read. Religious processing of this sort must have had a great place in the ritual of European peoples in prehistoric times, if we may judge from the numerous traces of them which have survived in folk custom. It may be that the wren stood as proxy for an ancient tradition where the annual king would be sacrificed at year's end to ensure the abundance of the crops and animals in the year to come. There are echoes of this found in other wren hunt traditions. So this is a sacred hunt myth, similar to hunting a white stag or hunting a bear. If you're going to hunt one of these special animals, you have to do it in ritualistic fashion, once a year at a special time, pray the prayers, thank the animal for the sacrifice. It's all very important. You don't just go willy-nilly hunting these animals. So let's see here. It may be that the wren stood as proxy for an ancient tradition where the annual king would be sacrificed at year's end to ensure the abundance of the crops and animals in the year to come. So shout out to the Prince of Pentos. Shout out to Cernunnos himself. There are echoes of this found in other wren hunt traditions. One of the most complex is from Carcassonne, France. Whoever found and killed the first wren during the hunt was crowned king, brought the dead bird home affixed to a pole to proclaim his victory. Later on New Year's Eve, the king and the other hunters embarked upon a procession through the town, accompanied by musicians and torchbearers. Every so often, they'd stop to write the date. And Vive le Roi, which means long live the wren, I believe, in chalk on the doors of the houses as they passed. Finally, on 12th night, a date very often associated with the wren hunt, the king would don full royal regalia and attend high mass, preceded by the body of the wren displayed triumphantly on a garlanded pole. Afterwards, the king would spend the day visiting important town personages who would give him money, with which he would throw a grand feast in the evening. It occurred around the winter solstice, saying that a New Year ceremonial having as it's a New Year ceremonial having as its purpose the defeat of the dark earth powers and identification with the hoped-for triumph of light and love. So again, it's all about the turning of the seasons. I think we've made the point here. Let me drop the link. If you guys want to read more about this, I will drop it. I'll put it in the description too. And once again, this is from the book by Nicole Canfield called A Brief History of Augury. So there you go. King Renly. Name not chosen by accident, is it? Pretty great stuff. He's a green knight. He's the Wren King. He's a green man. It's all that stuff. So there you go. That's about as much symbolism of Renly as I can give you, folks. There's the death of stag kings, the death of kings. I was going to call it the death of kings, and I changed it to the death of stags, but they're stag kings. So that's the point. Oh, yes. Oh, and there's one little detail I keep forgetting to bring back. What was it? Oh, yes. Okay, so the warrior sons mirror armor on the outside, right? But they keep remarking how they have hair shirts on the inside. What does that mean? That's like the skin has been turned inside out, right? I think this is a big clue about the others being made with green seer and skin changer and nature magic. They're like the trees turned inside out. The whites, it's like a perversion of skin changing. It's like skin changing the dead. So I think those hair shirts on the inside of the mirror armors is a really good symbol. And I just wanted to mention that. It just shows you on the inside of the others is, animals, green seer magic. It's nature turned inside out. It's a good symbol. So, yes, and also the Franciscan monks did that. I can't do the chant. My voice is too tired. Cool, guys. Well, thanks a lot for coming to the stream. It was a great stream. I felt like my thoughts came out very organized today. Always makes me happy. So cool stuff. Like I said, and if you want to read over the Purple Wedding or the death of Maester Crescent in the Patchface helm, you'll see all the same symbolism happening as well. So thanks a lot, guys. I'll see you on Sunday for Cersei, 4:20 Eastern. Don't miss that. That's going to be great. It's a ton of Nissa Weirwood stuff. but we'll also talk about Cersei. And yeah, I'm at the rest of my voice for that. It's going to be a good one. So have a good night. Friday night, Shadow Nights has been great because of you. You made it